A life shaped by ambition. Picture this. You're standing in the opulent halls of the Vatican Palace in Rome. The year is 1480. Golden light filters through. Stained glass windows illuminating the marble floors that have witnessed centuries of power, ambition, and hidden secrets. In one of these grand chambers, a baby girl takes her first breath, her tiny fingers already destined to become instruments in one of history's most ruthless political games. Her name is Lucretia Borgia. Lucretia's story is not just another tale of Renaissance nobility or political marriage. It is a gripping narrative of how a single union transformed an intelligent, educated young woman into someone history would remember as one of the most feared figures of her age. But what makes Lucretia's story so fascinating and disturbing is that historical records indicate she was unborn a monster. Instead, contemporary accounts describe her as possessing remarkable intelligence, fluency in several languages, and an elegance that captivated everyone she met. With long blonde hair, white teeth, hazel eyes, and a charm that could light up a room, Lucretia was much admired. Yet by the time her story reaches its climax, this same woman is accused of scandals so shocking that her name becomes synonymous with manipulation, betrayal, and dark intrigue. What transforms her into this feared figure isn't a gradual descent into darkness. It is one specific marriage that shatters everything she believes about love, loyalty, and survival itself. A living treaty, power's machinations. To understand the arc of her life, we must first recognize Lucretia's place within a family speaking the language of power and ambition. Born as the acknowledged illegitimate daughter of Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia, who would eventually become Pope Alexander VI, Lucretia was raised as what Renaissance political theorists termed a living treaty. Her marriages were not about her personal happiness or desires. They were strategic weapons in her family's quest for dominance across the Italian peninsula. Her first marriage, arranged when she was merely 12 years old, serves as a sobering example of how the Borgias viewed their daughter as political currency. Records from the Vatican reveal that she was wed to Giovanni Sforza, Lord of Pesaro, in a ceremony designed to secure an alliance between the Borgia and Sforza families. The marriage contract, preserved in historical archives, stipulated a staggering dowry of 31,000 ducats equivalent to well over $1 million today. This union was a calculated step in the family's relentless quest for influence and control. However, the dark undertones of her family's machinations soon become evident. Diplomatic correspondences indicate that her family never intended this marriage to be permanent. Even before the wedding celebrations concluded, plans to dissolve the union were being crafted. When the political winds shifted and the Sforzas became less valuable as allies, the Borgias sought to regain control and position Lucretia for new marriages. The method chosen to annul her first marriage reveals the depths of their manipulation. Historical records from 1497 detail how Giovanni Sforza was forced to flee, Rome disguised as a peasant after sensing the impending danger. This was not merely a divorce. It was a concerted effort to humiliate and destroy Giovanni's reputation. Pope Alexander VI declared that the marriage had never been consummated, effectively labeling him as impotent before all of Europe. When Giovanni, dismayed and desperate, refused to cooperate, threatening to reveal damaging secrets about the Borgia family, they resorted to even more drastic measures, systematic legal manipulation, that forced Giovanni to sign the annulment documents under duress, confessing to impotence. The bitter irony is that he accused Lucretia of spreading damaging rumors about him, an accusation that would haunt her for the rest of her life. The shadows of scandal and betrayal. During the 6 months Lucretia spent in a convent while the annulment was processed, her life took a turn steeped in scandal and secrecy. Contemporary accounts suggest she may have been pregnant during this time, and the identity of the father remains one of Renaissance history's most controversial mysteries. Papal records confirm that a child was born in the Borgia household in 1497, and shortly afterward rumors surfaced surrounding the mysterious death of Pedro Calderon, her father's chamberlain, who was accused of having an affair with Lucretia. The whispers of violence surrounding her relationship served as a grim reminder of her family's iron grip on her fate. As anyone who showed genuine affection for Lucretia met untimely misfortune, The message became clear: she belonged to her family, and her heart was not her own to give. Yet, it was her second marriage that would become the true catalyst for her transformation from a mere pawn into something far more dangerous. In 1498, in a bid to strengthen ties with Naples, Pope Alexander VI arranged for Lucretia to marry Alfonso of Aragon, Duke of Bisceglie. The unexpected twist was that this time, Lucretia and Alfonso actually fell in love. Descriptions from the period portray Alfonso as remarkably handsome, the most beautiful young man ever seen in the imperial city. For the first time, she experienced genuine happiness, and the couple's wedding celebrations were marked by joy shattering the cold political theater customary in such arrangements. For nearly 2 years, Lucretia appeared to lead a normal life. She gave birth to a son, Rodrigo, and contemporary accounts suggest she genuinely thrived as a wife and mother, indulging in poetry, the arts, and intellectual discourses that blossomed in Renaissance Rome. For a brief moment, it seemed as though love might triumph over the ruthless political calculations that had defined her existence. The betrayal of love, however, the Borgia family had not transformed. Only their political needs had changed. By 1500, Pope Alexander VI sought new alliances, this time with France, the historic adversary of Alfonso's Aragon family. Diplomatic correspondence reveals that Cesare Borgia, Lucretia's ambitious brother and a powerful military commander, regarded Alfonso as an obstacle to these new arrangements. The stage was being set for a betrayal so brutal that it would fundamentally alter Lucretia's understanding of trust, love, and survival. On the evening of July 15, 1500, tragedy struck. Alfonso was ambushed by hired assassins as he approached St. Peter's Basilica, leaving him gravely injured. The attack was so vicious that the assassins attempted to drag his wounded body to the Tiber River, presumably to ensure he drowned even if the stab wounds didn't kill him. After initial rescue from the attack, Alfonso was taken to his private chambers, where Lucretia and her sister-in-law remained by his side, caring for him around the clock. Lucretia's desperate attempts to nurse her husband back to health became an act of unwavering love. For weeks, she prepared his meals and tested his food for poison, showing an emotional side that seemed at odds with the ruthless political environment surrounding her. Yet Cesare Borgia was not finished with his deadly game. When some of Alfonso's men tried to avenge him, believing Cesare orchestrated the attack, their efforts sealed Alfonso's tragic fate. On August 18, 1500, Cesare visited Alfonso in his bedchamber, whispering ominously, "What was not finished at breakfast will be completed by dinner." That evening, Alfonso of Aragon died under suspicious circumstances, leaving Lucretia bereft. The psychological impact of this betrayal cannot be overstated. Historical accounts depict Lucretia as falling into a deep depression, spiraling into despair at the loss of the man she loved, the one person who had shown her genuine affection untainted by political ambition. But the cruelty did not end here. Just 3 weeks after Alfonso's death, Lucretia was publicly compelled to express joy over her brother's plan to eliminate their rival, forcing her to celebrate what she had mourned. Transformation into a power player. This moment marks the true transformation of Lucretia Borgia. The intelligent, educated young woman who had briefly savored happiness was now something else entirely. The betrayal had taught her that love could be a fatal weakness, that trust could lead to ruin, and that survival required becoming as ruthless as those around her, her family included. When she was sent away to the castle at Nepi to recover from her grief, the Borgia family was already orchestrating her next move. There would be a third marriage, one designed to solidify her power further and establish her as one of the most feared women in Renaissance Italy. After exiting the castle with new resolve, Lucretia was no longer the grieving widow who had entered it. She would transform herself into a cunning political operator, demonstrating a profound shift in behavior that alarmed even her own family members. Venetian ambassadors noted her behavioral changes, describing her as more calculating in her interactions, her once spontaneous warmth replaced by a theatrical charm used strategically rather than naturally. As she began to analyze the political landscape surrounding her, Lucretia embraced her role with newfound intensity. Historical accounts reveal that she surrounded herself with knowledge, poring over diplomatic papers late into the night, memorizing the allegiances of noble families across Italy. No longer a passive piece on the political chessboard, she was preparing to play the game herself. The negotiations for her third marriage encapsulated the complete transformation Lucretia had undergone since the events surrounding Alfonso's death. When Pope Alexander VI approached Ercole d'Este, Duke of Ferrara, to arrange an alliance through marriage to Lucretia, the initial response was a harsh rejection. The Duke was understandably appalled at the prospect of marrying a bride whose first husband had been publicly humiliated and whose second had been murdered under mysterious circumstances. A new strategy for power, however, the Borgias had learned from previous political miscalculations. Rather than leveraging direct threats, they employed a campaign of diplomatic pressure that showcased their evolution as political operators. By convincing King Louis XII of France to support the match, they effectively eliminated Ercole's chances of securing a French bride for his son, dramatically shifting the power dynamics in their favor. Meanwhile, Cesare Borgia's military campaigns in Romania posed a strategic threat to Ercole, making a Borgia alliance seem more like a necessity than a choice. The negotiation process for Lucretia's hand became a masterclass in Renaissance political manipulation. Ercole attempted to present demands so outrageous that the Borgias would have no choice but to withdraw their proposal. He requested a dowry of 200,000 ducats as well as territorial concessions that would have turned Ferrara into a direct Borgia client state. To his shock, every demand was accepted without hesitation. Unbeknownst to Ercole, Lucretia herself had become an instrumental figure in these negotiations. Letters discovered in the Este family archives years later reveal that she had been corresponding directly with members of the Este court. Using intermediaries, she presented herself not merely as the infamous Borgia daughter, but as an educated patron of arts and letters, capable of elevating cultural status in Ferrara. The transition from being a mere political pawn to an active designer of her destiny culminated in her strategy for her marriage contract. Historical accounts illustrate her meticulous preparation for this third marriage, crafting an entirely new public persona. Lucretia studied Ferrara's customs, familiarized herself with the intellectual interests of the Este court, and even adjusted her speaking patterns to distance herself from the negative associations of her family's name. Most tellingly, Lucretia insisted on provisions in her marriage contract that her previous unions had lacked: the right to maintain her own household staff, control over specific revenues, and crucially guarantees regarding her treatment should the political situation shift beneath her. The emergence of Lucretia Borgia. Power player. The wedding of Lucretia to Alfonso d'Este finally took place in 1502, and it marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one where she was not just a victim of circumstance but a calculated power player in her own right. Lucretia's embrace of her new role brought her both respectability and influence, as she transformed herself into a force to be reckoned with in Italian politics. She cultivated a rich cultural environment in Ferrara, hosting salons filled with intellectual exchanges that attracted some of the finest minds of the time. Lucretia became a celebrated figure, known as a patron of arts, while simultaneously navigating the treacherous political landscape of Italy. Her ability to balance the delicate line between social grace and political acumen turned her into a significant player in Renaissance affairs. However, the shadows of her past continued to linger, and as she established her new position of power, Lucretia also faced the brutal reality of the world around her. The political intrigues, betrayals, and swift shifts in allegiances added layers of complexity to her life. She used the experiences of her turbulent past to fortify herself against the very forces that had tried to destroy her. Conclusion: legacy of a complex woman. Lucretia Borgia's life story is one of resilience forged in the crucible of betrayal, ambition, and political maneuvering. From her early experiences as a pawn to her transformation into a skilled player, she emerged as a multifaceted individual, one who wielded the tools of intelligence, charm, and ruthlessness to navigate the dangerous world of Renaissance politics. Today, historians continue to explore the legacy of Lucretia Borgia, debating whether she was a victim of her circumstances or a master manipulator who became emblematic of the corrupt and often violent nature of political life during the Renaissance. Her rise to prominence, marred by scandal and suspicion, contributes to the enduring mystique surrounding her name. As we reflect on her journey, we see how the interplay of love, power, and betrayal shaped not just her destiny but the landscape of Renaissance Italy itself. Lucrezia Borgia remains a testament to the complexities of human ambition as both a woman driven by love and one hardened by betrayal, navigating a world that continuously sought to define her. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to support our work. Never miss an upload. Like this vid, drop a comment, and share it with others to help us grow this historical community.